friends. This is Caroline from Carousel, and I'm here with a download. So, my partner and I were talking about judgment and self judgment last night, and I got all of this information and I wrote it down, so I want to share. So, I'm looking down at my notes. I will type these up because we all learn differently. Some of us are readers, which I am very much so. But I want to talk about judgment in the fact that when we judge ourselves, we are rejecting those parts of ourselves. So I'm just going to kind of read through it and then give analysis as I'm going. So when we judge ourselves, we are rejecting those parts of ourselves. So imagine all the parts you have rejected of yourself, like splintered off into shadowed, but still attached at your base. So imagine like a blooming onion, basically. So imagine the aspects of yourself that you have rejected via judgment splinter off as if they're like a blooming onion. So they connect at the base because there are still aspects that are part of you, but they splinter off. Just because you have rejected this aspect of yourself does not mean that it goes away. On the contrary, it is now manifesting in the shadow due to the separation. The same way that those service to self, or those operating from the darkness, operate in shadow because they believe that they are separate from source. Love is unity, fear is separation. So when we operate in the service to self mindset, or when people operate in like a shadow aspect or in darkness, it's due to the illusion that they're separate from source. They're separate from the unity consciousness. So everything is part of unity, but the further away you get from the unity consciousness or love consciousness or Christ consciousness, whatever your preferred term is, the more it manifests as shadow or darkness because they believe or forget that they are also part of source. Everything is in the unity, but as they move further away, it becomes more shadow-like or darkness. So imagine now if you judge lots of aspects of yourself. So you judge yourself a lot. You have all of these aspects or energies of yourself that have splintered off. So more splinters, more judgment, more splintered aspects of yourself. So you can imagine as they get further away and separate from you, those splintered off or shadow aspects get darker. So the less judgment, I mean, we're all going to have some aspect of it, but the less judgment or the lighter judgments, let's say, are like a lighter shadow, and the deeper judgments are a darker shadow. So almost like a blooming onion. And the aspects of yourself you have yet to reject, or those that you have accepted and therefore unified into your being, are like a strong pillar of light at your core. So you that you have accepted, that you have unified into yourself, those aspects of yourself, the ones that you like of yourself, the ones that you accept, those are integrated into your unified being in the middle. So imagine that core of the onion, the part that isn't separated into the blooming onion, and then you have all of these offshoots around. Okay, so these are a strong pillar of light at your core, surrounded and having to look out through these shadow splinters that stem and connect at your root. So you're in the core, you have to look out through all of those shadow splinters that are surrounding you, as if from the center of that blooming onion, that stem and connect at your root. So everything's connected at your root chakra because they attach at your root. When the root, so the root chakra is the red chakra at the base of the spine or the bottom of the pelvis. When the root becomes out of alignment or operates in shadow, as in you become overly afraid or in survival mode. So that would be the shadow aspect or the like inverse aspect of the root, is being overly in survival mode or afraid. When you become overly afraid or in survival mode, that energy originating at your root will be a higher match and more harmonious frequency with those shadow splinters or the rejected self aspects. And so your energy, thoughts, patterns, habits, and actions are more likely to manifest down the line as one of these splinter shadows. My handwriting is very quick. So let me repeat that. when the root becomes out of alignment or operates in shadow, as in you become more afraid or in survival mode, that energy originating at your root chakra. So the root is also the spark of life. It's where the energy that is fed in through your feet chakras enters the main chakra system. Basically, through the main chakra system, we transmute, evolve, and process emotions out of the body. It's also how we get our life force or vitality. So in our root originates like our sexuality, some aspects of creation, survival mode, primal instincts, but also the spark of life, the initiation of life. So when that energy originating at your root will be a higher match and more harmonious frequency with those shadow aspects or rejected self aspects. And so your energy, thoughts, patterns, habits, and actions are more likely to manifest down the line as one of these splintered shadows. So because when we're afraid or in survival mode, the energy, instead of being able to match that core pillar of light, that's your center, your unified being, it's a higher match or a more harmonious match, because everything's frequency, or you can think of it as harmonics or music. It will more likely match and be in alignment with those blooming onion aspects, those splinters, those shadow splinters that are around you. So it will manifest as, let's say, your those behaviors that you are attempting to reject in yourself. So there are two important things to mention. The first is we must look through our own energy field before we can see, understand, and interpret the world. So this is really important, and I think it's something that I haven't heard anybody talk about the chakra system that explains this, except for the book that I got a lot of my teachings from, The Wheels of Light. So imagine your auric field, your egg-like electromagnetic field that surrounds your body. This is the sum total. So your electromagnetic field is made of the individual chakras, unprocessed energies and experiences, what you consume into the physical body, etc. It is the sum total of all of these things together. So your aura isn't its own thing. It is made up of the collection of your energies, basically, including your what you consume into your physical body, your thoughts and emotions, which also contain energies, your individual chakras, which have their own frequencies. And so it is the combination of these things that creates your auric field, or for those that see colors, it will create that combination, that unique combination of colors for your field. So our aura becomes like the sunglasses we forget we are wearing. You are looking through your own energy field to be able to understand and interpret the world around you. So you're surrounded by this egg. So you're that core pillar of light in the middle of this blooming onion, if you have all of these rejected aspects of yourself. So, or you're in the middle of this egg looking out. So you have to look through your own aura. You have to look through your own egg before you can see and interpret the world. So let's say you've done a lot of self-work to integrate, forgive, and accept yourself and your experiences. You have maybe a couple light splinters because you are still a human, and you may have bad days where these aspects show up in the shadow, but for the most part, you refrain from self-judgment. You can find compassion and forgiveness for yourself. So most of your auric field is clear, or the blooming onions are in alignment with your higher self. They are unified into, so you don't have these splinter aspects. You are a unified onion, let's say, before the onion is cut. So most of your auric field is clear. How will this person interpret the world around them? So you can see, let's say, in the same vein, if our aura is the sunglasses we forget that we're wearing, if your sunglasses are mostly clear because you've done a lot of work and cleared a lot of your stuff, how will you interpret the world? Versus the second example I'm about to give, compared to someone with a lot of self-judgment. They verbally berate themselves daily. They say unkind things to themselves. When they make a mistake, their world comes crumbling down. They may have they have many dark shadow splinters surrounding them. So that blooming onion, all of those splintered aspects are very dark around them. This is the screen or the field they are looking through to understand and interpret the world. What will this person likely see and find more of? So you're sitting in the middle of that blooming onion, a lot of self-judgment. So more thick, dark, heavy splintered shadow aspects. And so you have to look through those aspects. So if it's the sunglass analogy, your sunglasses are very dark. Your sunglasses are very dark, very tainted compared to the person whose sunglasses are clear. So how will each of those interpret the world or see the world? So they are not only looking out from behind the shadow screen, so to speak, but they're also taking in information, or their perception has to go through those shadows before reaching them, before they can internalize it and create a perception. So not only are you looking out through these shadows, but for you to take in information, for you to process information, it has to also go through that shadow screen. So you are taking in information that is being filtered through those shadows. So because this person has rejected these aspects of themselves, or more accurately, created a lot of separation within the self through judgment, when they interpret or perceive these same aspects in others, what will they do? What will happen? It will trigger them. It will most likely trigger that same judgment that they put upon themselves. And they will likely take these traits personally. They will be abnormally unforgiving with the person they perceive these traits in. So when you find yourself harshly judging another, I will almost guarantee those are the same qualities you have rejected within yourself. For example, let's say you've rejected your own sexuality, or some aspect of your sexuality. So maybe when you see others portraying a confident sexuality, or they're operating within their sexual self, you judge them. So let's say you judge women for dressing sexy or whatever. There's usually good reasons why we've rejected aspects of ourselves. There's usually a good reason. So this isn't another reason to judge yourself for judging yourself. That just creates more and more separation. So the thing is, though, you've outgrown the reasons why you were judging yourself. That's why it feels like a weight. And once it becomes, the separation becomes so heavy that you can't operate like in your optimal health, it no longer serves your benefit. So let's say you rejected sexuality. When you see other people operating within their sexual self, it'll likely trigger you. And as I said, there's probably a good reason why you rejected this aspect of yourself in the first place. Like, most likely it was to keep you safe. Most of the things we've rejected within ourselves, we believe will create an insafety or a rejection from the group or something like that. So let's say when you were young, you learned that it wasn't safe to be sexual, you couldn't maintain your boundaries, or you learned from other people that you didn't want to be perceived in a certain way, and so it was better to reject it than to risk being ostracized or hurt or vulnerable. So the same qualities you have rejected within yourself are the ones that you are likely judging in another person. So this is a great diagnostic tool for ourselves to observe our behavior and say, hang on, does this thing bother me so much because I also judge these qualities within myself? And most likely, yes. Most likely, yes. The second important thing is that these aspects of ourselves, the shadow splinters, are also energy. They are parts of what make up your energetic whole. After healing and integrating, it doesn't mean that they will exist in the same way or frequency, but they are able to evolve. So think of your auric field, or the energy it is made up of, as a battery of sorts. It is your life force. It is the manifestation and flow of life force energy moving through and around your physical body. So it's also where you get your energy from, and I mean that in kind of all of the senses of the words, like your energy to do things, your energy for the body to process, your thinking energy, your like kinetic energy, your all the aspects of energy, the frequencies of energy, the harmonics of energy, like that's all there. Your vibe, your energy, like all of that. So the way you feel to others, all of that. So when we have these splintered shadows, like a blooming onion, they are offshoots. So they like offshoot and connect at the root, remember. the energy that runs along that splinter, is dissipated or lost. Okay? It is not integrated into the microcosmic orbit. So the microcosmic orbit is the closed loop of our energy system within the body, or into the natural flow and evolution of your energy. As I mentioned at the beginning, our aura, our chakra system helps process and move energy through the body. So the energy that moves through the body gets evolved as it moves up and eventually is released out of the crown, what we no longer need. So the energy that moves along the splinter is dissipated or lost. It is not integrated into your microcosmic orbit or into the natural flow and evolution of your energy. Or imagine these are all hoses. Imagine the splinters as hoses. And the integrated hoses that make a closed loop into your system, so the ones that are unified into the self. So the energy cycles through. It is integrated, cycles through. What is processed out leaves out of the crown chakra or other processes. Now, that blooming onion is hoses. So all of those splinter aspects are hoses. Some of the hoses don't connect back into the microcosmic orbit. So those are the ones that are lost or dissipated, the energy. And they don't integrate, they don't connect back at the top of the energy field. Therefore, that energy or that life force is lost and dissipated. So that hose is just splintered off, running and just like spewing water, spewing energy at the end that isn't integrating out. It's just getting lost into the ether, basically. Some of the hoses connect back in, but they connect back into the system, but they have been pushed so far out. So instead of following its natural path of the unified self, it has to make this huge, huge loop. And so because they have been pushed so far out, the energy that they provide is weak. So imagine a hose had to travel 2 miles. By the time the water got there, it would be so weak, it would just be a trickle. So some of the hoses connect back into the system, but they have been pushed so far out that the energy they provide is weak. So if you have a ton of these unintegrated hoses, so these blooming onion, these splintered shadow aspects, you are losing tons of your vital energy and life source. You are exhausted. And it is exhausting to keep judging yourself and to keep the same pattern. But now these pathways, these splintered aspects are so familiar and so well worn that you take this path by default, even when you don't want to. It's like driving and not even remembering the drive until driving home and not even remembering the drive until you pull into your driveway. And so we must become aware. Shadows exist where there's no light. Your awareness of your own shadows, the shadows of the world or whatever, all aspects of shadows, already diminishes their destructive power. So just the illumination of awareness decreases their power. That is always the first step, becoming aware. So become aware of your thoughts, become aware of your judgments, become aware of your inner dialogue. What do you say to yourself about yourself, and what do you say about others? The way you judge your friend, your mom, your partner, your boss, is that because you also judge yourself for the same thing. The goal is to integrate these shadow aspects, these splintered selves, back into the self through unity, forgiveness, compassion, and ultimately love. Remember, shadows are shadows because of the illusion that they are separate from source. All of the shadows of yourself are still aspects of yourself, but through our judgment and separation, they become more shadow-like and less divine or light-filled. So the further away you get from unity, the further away you get from source consciousness, Christ consciousness, whatever your preferred label is, the more shadow-like they become. Once you can move beyond the illusion of separation within yourself, you will see that behind the judgments, most of our own shadows are not really shadows at all, but aspects of ourselves asking for acknowledgement, validation, love, and forgiveness. Wapa! So it's a lot of information, but it's important to understand that, like I said, most of the aspects we have rejected in ourselves or judge ourselves for there's usually a good reason for it, something we learned early on. Usually it has to do with us wanting to be accepted by others, wanting to not be rejected by the group, which is a huge survival aspect as humans. It dictated our survival, and our livelihoods for most of our evolution was to be integrated into a group. Or it's something to keep you safe, because embodying that aspect of yourself holds onto a fear frequency. It holds on to some belief that you could potentially be vulnerable if you embodied that aspect. So as I said, there's usually good reasons for it, but by rejecting these things, we can never take the positive aspects or the positive qualities of the traits we have rejected within ourselves. And through rejection, we create separation. And as I said, you're losing a lot of energy by judging yourself, by going on that loop. So all of that vital energy that could be integrated back into the self, that could be used for creation, for building your highest life, for manifesting, for gratitude, for spreading love, for doing good things, for moving forward, for your own evolution and ascension, is just getting lost and dissipated around you. So like an untethered hose or an undirected hose. So I hope that's helpful. I hope it makes sense. I'm going to have the written transmission, or the written download, basically. Like I said, everybody learns differently. I am very much a reader, so that will be there. If you have questions, please let me know. And Carousel Divine Online memberships are here to support you. I'm very grateful and happy to be doing that. We're doing our Alchemy session for members only this month. Very fun. So once a month, we'll be doing intimate, small group work, which is very, very nice. So I wish you so well. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will be with you soon.